This happened about 3 years ago. I was attending the university in a nice small town in California. I lived just a couple blocks away from campus. It was about a 10-minute walk, so I never bothered trying to find parking, and I just walked. I had a math class that ran from 6 to 9 at night on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I generally have no issues walking home, even in the dark. I'm 6'3" and around 200 pounds. I have a big red beard, and I believe people are usually more afraid of me than I am of them. I should note though, I'm a total pansy, and were anyone to actually attack me, I'd probably end up in the fetal position crying. Now, about a week before this particular night, the school sent out an email to all the students. There had been several instances of girls being stalked, and in a couple of cases attacked or taken by a group of 3 or 4 men in a black car. Basically, they warned us to walk in groups and to not stay out late. The attacks were all after dark. I remember reading this email and feeling horrible for all the girls that had been attacked, but also, I didn't pay it much mind as I didn't quite fit the attacker's criteria. While people were able to count the number of assailants and describe the car, nobody was quite able to get the license plate number. The day this occurred on, it was a very cold Thursday night. I'd even worn my large hooded jacket to keep warm on the walk. We had a test that day, which meant that we'd leave class early. Our teacher would usually spend about 20 minutes going over stuff, then give us a test, after which we would usually turn it in and then leave. So instead of all 30 or so people leaving the class at once, our departures were spread out. I was probably the 10th or so person to finish the test, and I started on my walk back home. I threw on my big jacket and put the hood up. I really love this jacket because it's incredibly warm and makes me look more bear-like. One of the people who finished the test before me was this fairly petite girl. We had sat next to each other several times, but I'm pretty socially awkward and never actually spoke to her. She was walking about 30 yards ahead of me. It was around 8 p.m. and dark out. She was staring at her phone as she walked along. We'd been walking for a couple of minutes when I started noticing that something made me feel a bit off. There weren't streetlights along this stretch of road, so it was pretty dark, and I could have sworn I saw something moving in the street, but I wasn't completely sure. I began to pay closer attention after a few seconds, and I realized that there was a car moving slowly behind this girl. It was a black car, and they didn't have their lights on. It was almost impossible to see them. I immediately recalled the email I had received the previous week about the attacks. Small girl alone at night? Black car? Holy shit. I sped up to start catching up with her, and the car pulled closer as well. I called out to the girl, and she stopped and turned around to look at me. As she turned, the car doors opened, and I grabbed my phone and turned on my flashlight app. 3 men jumped out of the car and started running at her. I started yelling at them, and she started running away from me. They were about to catch her, and I was sprinting at them. I was 100% sure that these 3 dudes would absolutely kick my ass. I'm sure that even one of them could. I had no idea what was going to happen if I caught up to them in time. I started shouting everything I could think at them. I deepened my voice to sound more intimidating. I puffed up my bare jacket to look as big as I could. And then I remembered that nobody had been able to get the plate numbers, so I shined my light in the car. I started shouting out the license plate info at them, and they freaked out. 2 of them ran back into the car, and one guy turned and looked like he was going to come at me. but one of the guys in the car told him not to, and that I was too big. They flipped their lights on and sped off. I reached out to the girl to make sure that she was okay. I shined my light on her to make sure that she hadn't been cut or anything by those men. She was crying and shaking. At this point, a couple other people had finished their test and had seen the last of the encounter. Another guy from class and I walked the girl to her dorm. She even made us walk her to her door on the 3rd floor, even though access to the building required a card. We called the police soon after and told them about the encounter. I had memorized the plate number on the car, as I did shout it at those guys a couple of times. And about a month or so later, they found the car. Inside were knives, duct tape, mace, and a rope. They even caught 2 of the guys outright and were trying to get them to out the others involved. Every Tuesday and Thursday, even after the police caught the guys, I would walk the girl to her dorm after class and then head home. This is one of the scariest moments in my life, and I thought for a while, what would have happened if they turned on me? I was either gonna watch this girl get kidnapped or be brutally murdered stopping it. I am a closing manager for a major movie theater chain. My location is in a semi-major city in the southwest region of the United States. I'm a female college student and a night owl, so I always get assigned these late shifts. The part of town that my job is located in isn't regarded as a very safe part of town for many reasons. The day this took place on was a slow Wednesday night, and I was already well ahead of schedule with my duties for the night and was helping my employees stock in the concession area. I had already locked the front doors. The usher was almost done with his work for the night. The box office attendant had 1 more hour, and the concession attendant was scheduled to go out with me and the other manager in about 2 hours. There are 3 levels of access in my theater. There's customer access that consists of locations that are accessible to customers and essentially everyone. Then there's employee access, which was protected by a keypad lock. Then there's manager access, which requires a key to access. I was going into an employee access area where all of the paper products were stored. I was intending on bringing a box of napkins to stock the concession area with. So the concession area is connected to the entrance/lobby area of the building. Theaters 1 through 8 are in order down an open hallway immediately to the right of the concession area after the ticket taker's podium. Theaters 9 through 14 are in a hallway that is perpendicular to the main hallway. It forks off in front of the men's room, and Theater 4, the employee access closet I was trying to get into, was directly in front of Theater 9 and to the right of Theater 14. There's a bench right at this area where a customer was sitting. He seemed to be minding his own business as I arrived to the closet. The box office attendant for the night had concerns about this man because he appeared to be drunk. Apparently, he was supposed to be there with another friend. I didn't think much about it at first. While he seemed to be looking at me, I just figured he was bored and waiting for someone. I proceed to key in the code for the closet and enter. I noticed rather quickly that he tried to shoot the gap as the door closed. I decided to try shutting the door as hard as I could. I was uncertain that it would get him on time, but I figured I could at least catch his fingers with the door and buy myself enough time to draw the box cutter I had on me. Thankfully for me, the door closed in time, and he pounded on it and was shouting,
"Let me in,"
at the top of his lungs. He also tried guessing the keypad code and getting in. All of my scheduled closing employees and the other manager were still in various areas of the building at this point. We communicated using headsets and radios. I called for 2 people to meet me at the floor closet. I remained calm and collected, but pressed that it was an urgent matter. The other manager and the usher came to meet me within a minute of my call. The usher helped the man outside, and the other manager came to walk me out. The guy was refusing to leave, claiming that he had items in the theater. As the usher tells it, there were many bar bottles of liquor everywhere around his seat, and the friend he was allegedly meeting that night was also nowhere to be found. This guy should have been in Theater 9, not in front of the closet I was getting into. I just gathered the boxes I was supposed to bring outside from this trip and bring them to the concession area. We have large windows and glass doors throughout the lobby, and I could see him outside, staring through the doors at me for several minutes. This is when I decided to call the police. He was arrested after not leaving the spot. They charged him with public intoxication for the large amounts of alcohol he consumed in this theater. But he wasn't charged with the closet incident because we couldn't prove his intentions. We looked up his name after we had formally banned him from the premises upon his arrest. These sorts of records are all public in my state, so we could see everything that he had been charged with. The results were chilling. He had been arrested for voyeurism with a victim under 18, an attempted rape about 10 years ago, and had only been out of prison for about a year, as well as a laundry list of other related crimes before that. We haven't seen him around since, thankfully. Abandoned buildings are amazing. My mother studied historical preservations in Georgia, so a love of dilapidated and abandoned structures is in my blood. When you pair this interest with my love of photography, you have a match made in heaven, and fortunately, this pairing is seen as favorable by many of my friends as well. As a rule, I've never entered an abandoned place by myself. This has less to do with caution or fear. As a stocky, bearded 22-year-old male, I don't often fear for my safety, but is primarily for physical safety reasons. When a structure has been left to rot for X number of years, there's a decent chance that you could go through the floor if you're not careful. Where I live, in southwestern Ohio, there are a great many exploration opportunities to be found, especially if you take 15 minutes to cross into Indiana. In Richmond, on one of the main strips before you hit the center of the city, there is a massive hospital that has been abandoned since the early 2000s. I had known about the location for ages, as my grandfather had stayed there before it's closed during his battle with lung cancer. Last year, I finally found the time and the energy to drive up with my friend Luke. We got there around 2 p.m., which gave us roughly 2 hours before dusk would begin. For pictures and for safety, we had agreed that daylight was a must for this expedition. Upon entering the hospital, it became immediately clear that we were far from the first people to ever visit. The entire place had been gutted, and there was graffiti everywhere. The walls were sporting comforting phrases like, "We're watching you," and "Leave my house, now." The bulk of the trip was almost uneventful. We got some great shots and covered some of the primary hospital wings, steering clear of the psych wards and cancer centers. As we gradually made our way up the stairwell to each new floor, we began to notice a pattern. At each landing was a door, and each door had been propped open by a massive wedge of cement or some other debris. The doors were shockingly heavy, so we assumed roving graffiti artists and vandals had opted for easier floor access. Granted, it seemed old, but we didn't think much of it. That is, until we were on the 7th floor. I was in one of the old bedrooms getting a shot of some curtains while Luke stood in the doorway, and suddenly, there was a massive boom sound from the stairwell we had come from, causing Luke and I to jolt upright. It sounded like it had come from below us, like one of the heavy doors had suddenly slammed. The problem was that none of the doors could have slammed, at least, not on their own. Not only were we separated from the door frame by massive chunks of debris, but they were far too heavy to have caught wind. The only way a door could have slammed was if someone had stood back, held it fully open, and then let go. Not a behavior that one would normally engage in without purpose. After a few seconds of staring at each other with saucer eyes, we decided that it was time to go. This meant finding another way down, as our previous way was currently occupied by someone else. There were these little green arrows spray painted all over the building, and on a gut decision, we decided to try and follow them. The ones on this floor all had the word exit written above them, so we felt good about it. It wasn't until we had been following the arrows for 5 minutes or so that we realized that wherever they were taking us, it wasn't out of the building. In our fear and desire to leave as quickly as possible, we had neglected to realize that the arrows were taking us deeper into the center of the building. Windows were becoming less frequent, and everything was getting darker and damper. That was the weirdest part, I think. How damp everything was. We had gone from a destroyed but dry building into an area that was so wet and rife with mold that the walls and floors were going greenish brown. We never found out what was at the end of the path, or who was leading, or better yet, pushing us there. After turning back, we found an emergency exit in the corner of the end of the hallway, and we were able to climb down and escape from there. We never saw anyone, but we were sure that they saw us. The hospital was mostly windows, which means that literally anyone looking out would have been able to see us coming and going. I'm just glad that we didn't go further into the dark, wet areas. Who knows what would have been waiting for us there, but surely it couldn't have been anything good. The doors, the spray-painted directions, it all seemed too sinister and intentional to be anything like an innocent vandal's prank. The entire time we were following the arrows, something just felt off. The hair on my neck was standing up the entire time, and I was just frankly terrified. Okay, so when I was 17, I was always in Yahoo chat rooms. I was always chatting with people in the local Seattle rooms. There was this one guy that I had chatted a lot, and because of that, we decided to meet. We met at Herfy's for lunch, and when he showed up, it was very obvious that the guy lied about everything. His age, what he looked like. The guy even admitted that he lied about having a job. He even showed up to Herfy's on the bus. So after we eat, I say it was nice and that I had to go. And as I walk away, this guy starts following me. I walked to a burger joint because I didn't live very far, and I didn't want this guy to follow me home. My mom's a flight attendant and was out of town. My mom had about a week left until her days off from flying, so I really did not want this weirdo knowing where I live. I began to tell him that I had appointments to take care of, trying to shake him from following me, but he insisted that it was okay and that he would just go with me to be company. Not knowing what else to do, I stopped at a bus stop and waited for the bus to downtown Seattle. He stopped too and got on the freaking bus with me. The whole ride there, he kept trying to talk to me by asking me all sorts of questions. I would usually answer with the bare minimum and fill in with lies because I just didn't want him to know anything about me. At one point, he tried putting his arm around me, and I just casually leaned away. He even tried putting his hands on my thighs, and I told him that I didn't know him well enough for him to touch me. I felt sick to my stomach the whole bus ride, trying to rack my brain with what the fuck to do once I got downtown. Once we arrived downtown, I walked over to the building where my best friend's mom worked. Since I knew the layout of the building, I could play it off. I told him that I had to use the restroom, and I asked the woman at the cafe if I could use the restroom. She agreed. Okay, so let me explain this. There's a delivery service door outside, and it leads to this hallway. The hallway in question has doors that lead to all the different shops, and to a service elevator to take things/merchandise to the other stores on the upper levels. So I exited the cafe through the back door and into the hallway and left the building out the door next to the docking bay. I took this as my chance to make my way to a bus stop to go home. I was gonna take the express bus and just get off at the airport instead of the other bus that takes forever. Well, as I make my way to the bus stop, I see the guy in the cafe still waiting for me. I managed to make it on the bus, and I never saw the guy again. However, a few nights later, I was on Yahoo Chat again when someone messages me, and I told him that I wanted to see a picture to know who I was talking to. He sent one. I see the picture and instantly pick up the phone and call one of my friends. The friend I call, his mom and aunt were really good friends with my mom and aunt, and our grandmothers had been close friends too, back in Eastern Washington before either of us were born. So he answers, and I start talking to him. Hey, are you on Yahoo Chat right now? No. Why? Someone's trying to talk to me, and they gave me a picture of you, claiming that it was them. Well, I go back to talking to the guy online, and he admits that it wasn't a picture of him. He admits who he is, and said that he felt we had a great connection, but lost me when we went downtown. He then professed his love to me, and I cussed the guy out and told him that I lost him on purpose. I then changed my Yahoo name and never met anyone from Yahoo Chat in person ever again.